I live on the east side of Buffalo, in an 800-square-foot house with radiators that bang like somebody knocking from the past. I'm 39, divorced, and I drive a plow for the city. Official title, motor equipment operator. Unofficial title, the guy people cuss at on Facebook when the berm at the end of the driveway looks like a glacier. My son, Marcus, is 11 and collects die-cast snowplows the way other kids collect baseball cards. He lines them up on the windowsill above his bed. The big orange city rig, an Oshkosh with a wing, a tiny loader with a matching tiny pile of glitter he swears is salt. If you don't live here, you think snow is a postcard. If you do, you know it's logistics. It's timing, fuel, and the angle of the blade. It's deciding to windrow left or right depending on where the wind wants to take what you're throwing. It's coffee that tastes like the bottom of the pot and socks that never truly dry. It's a radio clipped to your coat with voices you know by cadence more than by name. It's the phrase we use when a whiteout gets surgical and we stop pretending we're in charge. Visibility zero. The week before Christmas, the radar started laughing at us. Lake effect bands stacked like interstates, and the meteorologist on TV talked about life-threatening wind chills, in the voice she usually saves for school closings. At the morning briefing, my supervisor, a woman who can back a 10-wheeler down an alley with an inch to spare, handed out wool blankets, chemical hand warmers, and an extra stack of route cards in case the city maps went dark. "Fuel full," she said, tapping the steel door with a pen. "Fill your pockets with granola bars. If you get stuck, don't be a hero. Call it in." By noon, the air went opaque. My wipers carved 2 twitching tunnels in a wall that moved. The radio clicked and clicked. Somewhere a firefighter asked for a snowmobile strike team, which is funny in July and a verdict in December. I kept thinking about Marcus at his mother's. My ex lives in a brick 2-flat with a furnace newer than my car, and I sent the text we send when we want to believe in systems. "Stay home. Don't open the door to look." He sent back a thumbs up and a photo of his favorite plow model helping the turtle tank. On Sycamore, I found a sedan trying to become a submarine. The driver, young, hatless, coat open because denial is a wardrobe, spun the wheels until hot metal smelled like pennies. I almost rolled past because the rule in Zero is you don't stop unless you can anchor. Then the passenger waved once, palm up like a kid at an aquarium. I bumped to neutral, set the brake, and the wind tried to take my door off its hinges. "You can't stay here," I yelled, which is exactly the wrong sentence for a person already losing a fight with physics. The woman nodded like I just invented the idea, and the man said, "Her mom is 2 blocks away." In the tone you use for a dream that doesn't know the rules. I helped them into the cab, turned the heat down. Warm slowly is what an EMT taught me years back, and got names between shivers. Tasha and Jared. I marked the sedan with a safety vest knotted to the antenna. We wouldn't see it again until morning, but at least we'd know where the ghost belonged. I thought about the elementary school 2 blocks north. It had a generator, maybe, unless the inspection tag was lying. A building is a promise in a storm. A school is a promise with bathrooms. The rule is do not break into property. The unwritten rule is you interpret property as people when the math goes there. I keyed up and told Dee what I was thinking. "If you can make it without making another scene," she said. I took that as both permission and a dare. Every 100 feet the road forgot it was a road. Every 100 feet the blade found pavement again like a second chance. I laid a trench deep enough for the luck that might follow us. Ambulance, neighbor, anyone with breath and a plan. At the school, the front doors were drifted half shut, glass flexing with every insult the wind invented. I tried the handle, got the answer I expected, and looked at the couple in my cab like a jury I'd never meet again. The custodians keep a pry bar in the vestibule for stuck locks when January is less dramatic. I wedged and apologized to no one in particular and broke the rule that kept us from breaking. We tumbled into a lobby that smelled like pencil shavings and winter coats. Somewhere down the hall a clock kept good time for nobody. We did inventory by phone light. Cafeteria. Industrial can opener big enough to disassemble grief. Aluminum hotel pans. A tub of salt not meant for sidewalks. Kitchen. Gas quiet. Sanctified appliances. A walk-in that whined like an animal remembering sun. Nurse's office. Bandages. Ice packs. a thermometer on a docking cradle, the chart that tells you what to do if 19 kids get the same stomach, custodian's closet, a ladder and enough paper towels to insulate a county, generator on, diesel half, exhaust, pointing the right way. That last one mattered more than I wanted to admit. Tasha found the paper goods. Jared found the coffee. I found the matches and learned the stove's temper on the third try. We made water hot enough to call it tea. I raided the pantry for things kids weren't going to eat until after break. Oatmeal packets, applesauce, shelf-stable chocolate milk that tastes like field trips. On printer paper I wrote in block letters shelter, warmth, knock, and taped the sign to the door inside the vestibule because the wind ate the first one. Luck and math sent us a bus. The driver had followed my trench as far as his nerve would let him and then done the smartest thing possible. He stopped where stopping didn't kill him and walked the passengers in. 23 people stood blinking in the cafeteria lights, the kind of quiet you get when strangers are scared of the same weather. One man carried a Pomeranian in his coat like a contraband heartbeat. A woman set down a birdcage and removed a blanket to reveal a parrot that immediately muttered, "Oh boy," like a sports fan who recognized trouble. I strung an extension cord from the truck battery through the cracked open doorway and made a charging station out of a power strip and stubbornness. In a gym storage room we found mats and 2 bins of lost and found teacher coats. Jared dragged the mats into a corner and made a sleeping neighborhood. Tasha labeled things with construction paper and markers. Restrooms, quiet, do not open outer doors. It looked official enough to keep us from arguing. Around dusk the white turned from angry to personal. Frost filmed the western glass in fern patterns that looked like a map we couldn't read. Cell service dropped from thin to an idea. A knock came that we nearly missed beneath the wind. In the vestibule I found the clerk from the gas station down the block, the one with the scratch-off machine that eats $5 and returns a lesson. He had 2 small kids, one on either side, and a teenage girl pretending her sandals with socks were a choice and not a mistake that hurt. I wrapped her feet in gym class sneakers 2 sizes too big and 2 pairs of donated socks, and she tried to look like she didn't care that she suddenly did. We started writing names on masking tape and sticking them to jackets because structure is oxygen when the world's improvising. The parrot narrated our progress in an old uncle voice. "Look at that," it said, which made a toddler laugh for the first time in hours. In the gym I found a rack of those little square scooters schools used to teach physics or punishment. I let the smallest kids push themselves slow circles until their bodies remembered how to make their own heat. In the kitchen I burned 3 grilled cheeses and then got the pan to listen. I kept thinking of my son. I pictured him at his mother's dining table building a plow convoy from his models while the turtle watched him like a superintendent. I pictured D back at the yard, elbows on the console, drawing new routes on paper maps because the software backend doesn't understand that streets disappear. I pictured the house on Sycamore becoming a shape the city would have to apologize to later. When I tried to text Marcus again, the phone screen spun and gave up. I slipped it in my pocket and took my second round of hall duty, tugging doors to confirm the chain locks were holding and the vestibule had the last word. Night in a school makes you feel like you're cheating on a rule nobody wrote. The posters that say use kind words and make good choices look at you with crafted sincerity. The floor wax smelled like discipline. People settled into piles of borrowed coats. The parrot fell asleep with its head tucked and said, in a much smaller voice, "Night, night." I checked the generator, checked the diesel, checked my knife like I could cut the wind out of the night and make it behave. Sometime after midnight the door banged and the air hurled a handful of snow like thrown rice. 2 men carried a third between them, his head lolling like he'd forgotten which way was fixed. I smelled his busted lip before I saw it. "Found him in a car," one of the men said. "Wouldn't wake up." We laid the man, late 30s, denim jacket, on the nurse's cot. His breaths were shallow and the color at his mouth scared me in a way I only admit now. The emergency kit had a pulse oximeter no one had bothered to steal, a dusty disposable bag mask, and a pamphlet about concussions. No oxygen. I wasn't expecting any. Carbon monoxide is a thief that wears your favorite jacket. His pulse was fast and wrong. His skin had that cherry not right hue I've seen once before in a generator accident on a job site. I cracked a window in the nurse's office to let the outside argue with the inside. Then I propped the door and set a box fan from the custodian's closet in the hall to bully the air into moving. Jared held the man. His name we learned was Reggie. Upright while I rubbed his sternum like an old paramedic once rubbed mine when a diesel heater lied to me. "Hey," I said. "You're late." It's the dumb joke I always make when I'm scared and need my mouth to keep time. Reggie coughed, cursed, coughed again, and then his eyes started tracking shapes like they belonged to him. Tasha made tea with too much sugar because that is sometimes medicine. We put the parrot in the hall because it had decided to narrate our efforts. Oh boy, and no one needed that loop. Sleep became a relay race. I closed my eyes on a bench by the gym and listened to everything instead. The whistle of the doors when somebody forgot and opened them. The specific, careful weeping of a man counting roofs in his head. A teenager whisper singing to keep her little brother away from panic. Twice I went out to the truck to knock the snow away from the intake so the heater wouldn't lie down and die. The second time the wind spoke privately, the language it uses when it thinks it has you alone. I told it a smaller word back. No. Dawn arrived the way it does in hospital corridors, gray and undecided. I walked the hall and took attendance in my head. The teenagers, present. The sandals replaced with sneakers. The Pomeranian, asleep on the principal's chair like tenure. Reggie, breathing easier, not that angry blue my city reserves for football jerseys and bad nights. On the roof, the generator rattled like a faithful appliance. The exhaust traced a question mark on the frozen air. I took that as permission to keep believing. Around 9, the radios shook themselves awake. Street crews said recovery, and then said it again. A ladder company chief announced a corridor cut on Broadway. Dee came on the air and asked, steady but exhausted, "You good?" Which is code for say the thing you don't want written down. I said, 30+ sheltered. Heat and water. 1 CO exposure trending better. She exhaled into the mic and I pictured her pinching the bridge of her nose. "Hold what you got," she said. "We'll get you." Took until evening. A convoy slid into our trench. Guard Humvees snuffling like animals. A city pickup with a light bar still choreographing. A snowmobile ridden by a person dressed like a moon story. We moved people out in batches. Prescriptions first, folk whose brave voices had finally cracked second, and the bird last because someone insisted on forms. I wanted to lock the door and call the school not today. Instead, I stood by the vestibule and counted thank yous, like evidence that we had in fact been there. When it was just me and Tasha and Jared and the parrot, its owner had gone with her diabetic mother and promised to return. I wrote a note to the school on wide-ruled paper with a green crayon. "I'm sorry about the door. We kept the kids off the mats. We owe you 10 grilled cheeses and 2 gallons of milk. Thank you for the roof. Darius, City Streets." I tucked it under the bronze eagle in the office and swept up the glitter of glass I'd made. We locked what we could and climbed into the cold that had decided to loosen its jaw. The city looked like a topographical map of wrong. Cars turned into sculptures with mirrors like ears. Porches collapsed into the idea of porches. We moved the truck 6 feet at a time. Blade down, low gear, letting steel find curb when the curb had forgotten itself. A firefighter flagged us, clapped my shoulder hard enough to reset a radio, and said, "Heard about the school." The compliment landed in the place I'd been using as a pocket for fear. 2 days later, when the grid forgave us in zones and streets had edges again, some neighborhood page wrote about the guy who broke into a school and saved people. It had nouns from my life and verbs I wouldn't have chosen. A reporter called. I let it ring out and texted Dee. "Please don't put my name on anything." She wrote back, "Too late to keep it off people's fridges." After the blizzard, I didn't sleep right. When the furnace kicked on at 3 a.m., my body braced for wind. The grocery store's automatic door made my heart stutter. The way it yawned sounded like that vestibule. I took Marcus to see the school because kids need to see the rooms where worry worked and didn't win. He put his palm on the patched glass and said, "You can't be in trouble if you saved people." I said, "Somebody still has to fix the door." He nodded like a foreman and said, "We can help," even though he's 4'6" and his tool belt is orange plastic. Dee asked me to give a talk at the community center. Not a hero speech, a don't die weird speech, freezers, batteries, carbon monoxide detectors, proper transfer switches. 50 neighbors in puffy coats drank church coffee while I held up a generator interlock and then a bad cord we call a name I won't say in front of children. Don't backfeed the grid, I said. You could kill a line worker you'll never meet. Also, you might kill yourself and your kids in your sleep. I watched heads nod the way people nod at new recipes. In March, I ran into Reggie in the line at Tops. He looked 10 years newer. He carried drywall screws and a half-gallon of milk. You were the soup guy, he said. I was the oxygen liar, I said. And we shook hands like cousins who'd quietly decided to forgive each other for living in the same city. He'd bought CO detectors for his apartment, his mother's house, and the neighbor who bangs pots when the bills score. He said he was back to patching walls because Buffalo always needs holes made into square again. I walked to my truck feeling like someone had handed me a receipt that proved the night counted. The city gave me a commendation in a room with microphones that make everyone sound like a voicemail. Dee pinned a little enamel shield to my jacket and whispered, "This is for your kid's shelf." Marcus set it next to the tiny Oshkosh and declared the plow had a mission now. I told him the mission was the same as always. Go until you can't, help until you can't, stay until someone with a stretcher says they've got it. He asked if we could keep a pot of soup in the fridge for the next weird storm. We can. I sent money to the PDA with emergency pantry in the memo line, a weird apology for 10 grilled cheeses and 2 gallons of milk. In the truck I keep a Rubbermaid tub I didn't keep before. Vacuum-sealed socks, hand warmers, a lantern that charges phones, a laminated sheet with addresses for likely shelters and the kind of big Sharpie you can write knock with from the inside of a vestibule. On my fridge I taped a list that reads, Diesel a half. Boots by door. Call Marcus before first shift. Ritual makes a good ladder when memory is slippery. Spring washed the salt from the curbs and nominated new potholes for higher office. People who'd been in the cafeteria started waving at me at red lights. The clerk from the gas station yelled thank you when I came in for coffee and then pretended we were just two men talking about scratch-offs and weather. In July, a limb took a bite from Ms. Jenkins's porch, and she called the department because the only number she had for trees was ours. Marcus came with me because summer makes him my shadow. We lifted the limb together. He made crane sounds. And Ms. Jenkins said, "My niece was at that school. She says your bird said thank you." She put a grocery gift card in my palm and closed my fingers over it like it was an egg. We bought bubbles and a bottle rocket kit and let the afternoon be ordinary on purpose. What I haven't said is that I still hear the word fatality the way you hear a smoke alarm that went off once and left its ghost in the drywall. There were too many that week. There will be more because wind doesn't keep score and cities learn in cycles. But the people in the cafeteria, the kid on the scooter, the clerk's teenagers with warm feet, the parrot that said thank you in a tiny voice 2 days later when its owner came back, those are numbers I count like proof, like bolts in a guardrail. Here is my list, not a moral but a map. Stay with the rig when it's safe. Leave it when the exhaust lies. Break the rule that keeps you from breaking the cold. Bring soup. Tape signs. Write names. Keep diesel above half. Don't let the generator lie. Share the outlet. Count breaths. Count people. Count yourself. Leave a note. Say sorry. Say thank you. Teach the talk. Fix the door if you can. I am a man in Buffalo who drives a plow and who, on one night when the wind got personal, turned a school into a city that lasted exactly long enough. When the first real thaw came and the gutters sang, I stood in that vestibule again, touched the new glass and told the building out loud, "We'll see each other again, but not like that if I can help it."